Hey guys, my name is Katie and I'm the head coach at Equestrian Movement. Today I wanted to talk about the concept of asking our horses for respect. So in my opinion, the idea of respect is quite often misconstrued with submission and submission-based training. And so there's such a fine line between forcing our horse to do a certain behavior and submission and calling that respect, and having an open two-way conversation with our horse where they can ask us to be respectful of them and their needs as much as we can ask them to be respectful of us and our needs. So what we're talking about when we're working with respect is where is our horse's attention? So do you command your horse's attention, and how do you do that? Are you commanding your horse's attention by demanding it? So we can be doing that by flicking the flag, like spooking them into paying attention to you, being bigger, better, stronger than the things that they're scared of. Those different scenarios where we're going to force their attention onto us by like spooking them into that responsivity. Or are you going to be a leader worth following, and that's why you have your horse's attention? Are you able to provide them with the emotional self-regulation to be able to guide them through difficult and challenging scenarios, be there for them and support us in that supportive role if they're hurt or injured or sick? Are you able to provide clear communication but also listen to your horse's needs? So when we come from this model of submission-based training, I think the idea of respect comes from a really fear-based position in a lot of trainers, in that we don't want our students to get hurt, or we don't want to get hurt ourselves. So this idea of our horse being respectful of us and responding quickly to our asks and responding with a yes to our asks can often lead very quickly into a submission-based training because we're worried what will happen if our horse says no. And I'm here to tell you that our horse saying no isn't the biggest enemy. It can actually be the biggest piece of the puzzle to unravel true respect, where it's mutual, where it's both ways, where we can be respectful of our horse and our horse's needs. We don't have to spook them into giving us attention, but we can get their attention because of the way that we show up for them, and then they're going to be respectful of us because we modeled the behavior that we want to see when we're asking for respect. So this is Zodi. This is one of my horses that has had a bit of a rough start, and what we're looking for when we're working with our horse and if they're respectful is we don't want them pushing us, bullying us, intimidating us, lashing out at us, dropping the shoulder in and moving us around, pushing into us to move us around. That is boundary setting, and depending on your horse's personality and nature will depend on where you're going to draw those boundaries and how you're going to draw them with your horse. When we're working with a horse like Zodi, who's had a rough start to life, and so he doesn't trust people very much, trying to set boundaries and especially trying to demand his attention by spooking that attention towards us is absolutely the wrong way to go with working with him. He's already mistrustful of humans because he hasn't had a reason to trust them when he first through the first experience that he's had. So spooking his attention and making him more fear-based is going to make it harder to build that connection with him and the rapport and the trust, and it's going to make him more sensitive and more reactive. And so this is one example of a horse that is not going to do well with submission-based respect. This respect for me comes by asking him to look at me, inviting him into me, setting clear boundaries, guiding him through our experiences together, showing him how I want him to find answers so that he isn't scared, worried, intimidated by what the correct answer is. It's, being able to identify where our horse is within our personal space. A horse like Zodi needs to be constantly invited into our space and rarely asked out of it. Whereas a horse like Fiddy, my other horse, he needs to constantly be reminded of where that personal space is, and to just be mindful of his interactions with me. So figuring out where your individual horse is on its level of assertiveness with you also dictates how you're going to interact with them to set these boundaries. So when our horse is being respectful of us, they're not pushing us around and they're not bullying us and intimidating us, but we don't want to set this respect by bullying, intimidating our horse into submission, because then all we're doing is modeling the behavior that we don't want our horse to be giving us. If you have a horse that actually needs some boundary setting, this is the worst way to go about it, because all you're doing is modeling the behavior that you don't want from your horse, and so that escalates that problem with them. If you're working with a horse like Zodi that is on the more sensitive end of the spectrum, then you're going to end up making them more scared of you and driving that wedge in and finding it really hard to get them to do anything for you because they're scared of you. So the respect comes from showing him how I want him to interact with me, showing him that it's a safe place to be with me, he can relax around me, showing him how to find answers, showing him how to find the release of pressure. And then I can look for him for his body language to figure out where we are on that line of respect. So I'm looking for his attention, where he's looking, if he's following me, if he's engaging with me. And then it's okay if he's not, because our horses only have a small period of time initially that they can hold that focus. Like, that focus can be really intimidating to them and they may need a break from us, or it can be really overwhelming and they need to take themselves away from us to process their emotions so that they don't take their emotions out on us. So being able to be that person for your horse where you can guide them through these challenging experiences, that is how you're going to gain respect from the horse, because you showed up as a person worthy of their respect, not because you've demanded respect from them. So if you want to know a little bit more about how we do this process and to see the rest of this training with Zodi, join in on our free online training session over at Equestrian Movement, www.equestrianmovement.com/connection, and let's talk about these ideas of what we need to do to be a compassionate leader, so that we're not having a conversation of force, intimidation, bullying, and spooking our horse into being respectful of us, but so that we are actually showing up as a person worth following, a leader worth following, as a human worth respecting. Thanks for watching. Bye.